Imagine me and you, I do. I think about you day and night. It's only right to think about the girl you love and hold her tight.
Welcome to Crazy Carrot Studios. My name is James, and today we will be going over how to use buttons to trigger our functions. Alright, continuing back in our project we did from last time, we do need to exit out of 2D if you haven't already. I'm actually going to deactivate the canvas because that's going to be part of our project today, is how to activate it and deactivate it through the script. The next thing I want to do is on my ground I actually darkened it up, so if you haven't and you want to, you're welcome to do so. Everything else should be as we left off. Now, one thing we're going to do today that's going to be a little bit different is we're going to bring in a prefab from Unity's Asset Store. This will be a free prefab, and I'll make sure to link it in the description down below. Now, the one that we're going to bring in is called Little Ghost. This one right here. It's got its own animations on it, that way we're not having to work on animation right now. And it gives us a little bit more aesthetics when we're trying to work with our script, so we all know which way everything's facing, and we can see how it moves when we add everything to the script. So on this particular one, you just can go to Add to My Assets. Of course, mine's already in there. Again, then you're going to open in Unity, and it will automatically bring you to your package manager. Now, if you don't know how to get to your package manager, go to Windows, Package Manager, and make sure you're in Packages, My Assets. And then from there, we'll just type in Ghost. And if you look on the very bottom of this right here, we have a import, or you'll actually have a download first. I've already downloaded it. So you'll download, and then once we're done, we're going to go ahead and import. You'll notice everything's checked marked. We're going to go ahead and keep everything in there. So let's go ahead and import this entire package. It'll take a second. Now we should have a folder inside of our package. Let's go ahead and do that. And now we have a folder called Little Ghost inside. On this one here, we're going to go ahead and open up the prefab. Now you will notice that the materials are pink. That is because the materials are set for the basic pipeline, and we are in Universal Render Pipeline. So what we're going to do is go to the materials here. That's the one that's going to be the color. Let's see. It's got all of them. So let's go ahead and take all three of these. Select it. Go to Edit. And let's go to Rendering on the very bottom. Materials. And convert to URP, or whichever you are in. The umbrella, we want to do the same thing. Take all three, File, Edit, Rendering, Materials, convert selected built-in materials. Okay. And lastly, if you wanted to do the ground, which we have our own ground, we don't really need it, but let's go ahead and see what it looks like. Let's go Edit, Rendering, Materials, Convert, Proceed. Now that we have the materials corrected, I do want to show another thing that you'll see a lot of times when you bring in a Unity asset. If we bring in, let's say, the red ghost here into our scene, you'll notice we're looking at him backwards. Now, when we first started this project, we made sure that we were facing in the way we wanted to, so that the right is going positive and the left is going negative and so forth. So what's going on is whoever created this particular asset has it parented backwards. So inside the prefabs themselves, we are just going to turn them around by going and hitting 180. Now when we do that, let's go ahead and delete that. And what we did is we changed the y-axis to have it rotate 180 degrees on that axis. So when we bring it back in, it's now facing us the right way. We're also a little bit further out than I probably would like, so let's bring that in a little bit more. And let's go to our main camera, game object, and align with view. Let's see how that looks like. That looks a little better there. And now you'll notice that since we did that to all three of them, they should all three be facing the right way, as they are. Excellent. So let's go ahead and delete these out of here. And we're going to go ahead and create an empty. And we're going to call this our script manager. Now inside, I'm going to show you a different way to add a script. We're going to go to Add Component. Down on the bottom, you'll see New Script. And we're going to call this our button script. Excellent. Now that is no different than us going to our scripts folder, right-clicking, and creating the script from here. It's just a different way of doing it. Now the one thing is when you do it that way, it brought it into my assets folder and not into my scripts folder, as you can see here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to my scripts folder. Oh, sorry about that. We need to go ahead and drag that into my scripts folder. Alright, as you can see here, I've got into my script and I've cleaned everything out of it. We just started off with our using Unity engine, so we can use the back end of the amount of behavior for that particular class. And we're going to also add in using TM Pro. And the reason for that is we're going to be using a text mesh element in our project. So when we come into our project and to our canvas, our actual text is using Text Mesh Pro. Now going back into our scripts folder, we're going to now go ahead and set up a few of our variables. We're going to start off with some of the same ones we've had in our other scripts. I'm just going to copy these right back in here from the script that we had before. Okay. Now to notice, I've got the comments on here as well. You can write that in there for your own notes if you'd like. But we have our public game object prefab to initiate, a private game object for the initiated prefab. That's once it's created. We have our public float. It's our move distance, and we're trying to move it by 10 spaces. And a public float for rotate speed, or rotate degrees, however you want to word it. But this is going to allow it to rotate 45 degrees. In fact, I'm going to change that to 90 degrees. So we can actually see it go, see our ghost face left, back, and right, vice versa. So going from there, we're going to add a couple new ones here. The first of which is going to be called a public string. And we're going to call this one text to display. And then we're going to also have another element called a public text mesh pro UGUI. You see it right there in that bottom part. This is the text element that we're going to be changing for the text itself. So we're going to call this one name text. And the reason why I'm calling it name text is because here we actually have it called name text as well. And that way it matches what we're trying to do and we're not confused later on. Okay, so from here, we're going to go ahead and do one more object here. We're going to call this a private game object. And I'm going to call this the canvas object. Of course, whenever I do a private, I try to underscore it. And this is going to represent our canvas. So let's go ahead and take a look at this real quick. And we can go ahead and assign these variables once this gets populated. So in our scripts folder, we open this up. We've got all these different variables. The prefab we want to initiate or instantiate, we're going to go back to our ghost prefabs folder. And it doesn't matter which one you select, but I'm going to go ahead and use the red one. We've got our move distance set for 10, the rotate speed or degrees or whatever you're calling it, 90. The text to display, I'm going to sit there and say, hi, I'm Bob. You can put whatever you like. And then for the name text, we want it to be this right here. And actually, I take that back. We're going to go back into our script and we're going to make this public for the canvas object so that we can see it in our inspector. All right, now that's done, let's go ahead and go to our canvas and drag that right into the canvas object, just like so. Okay, let's go back and start creating our functions now. Now the first one I want to create is a private void start, and inside we're going to do canvas object dot set active true. Now what this is going to do is allow us to turn on and off the canvas object. In this particular case, on start, we're setting it to go true. Our next couple of functions will look pretty similar because we used them in the last script. This one here we had called create prefab, but this time we're going to call it instantiate prefab. And of course we're going to be taking the instantiated prefab and have it equal the prefab to instantiate. This next one is also one we did in a previous episode, where we're going to do the move prefab function. So as long as we have a prefab instantiated, it will transform to the right at the distance we selected, which in this particular case is 10. And like our other script, we have another function called rotate prefab that's going to rotate it on the z-axis by the degree or speed that we set it for. Now this function here is a new one. We're going to call a public void change color function. Now what this is going to do is we're going to let it set a random color to our material. Now we did a change color before, but with this one we're doing a slightly different one. We're going to get the component from the renderer of the instantiated prefab. We're going to set the material to color, and that color is going to equal a random color HSV. Now, the color HSV is color space based on hue, saturation, and value. I have left a few comments here to explain a little bit about it, and you can also Google what HSV is to help you understand it a little bit more. Now this last function, destroy prefab, is another one that we've used before, whereas if we have a prefab that is instantiated and it's not null, we will destroy this prefab. Now one more I almost forgot. We need to have the change name text function, where we're going to assign our name text, the text element of it, to equal our text to display string. Now back in our project here, we're going to go ahead and assign these functions that we have written in our script to the buttons that we have in our canvas. So let's start off by going with our name text button. And you'll notice here, if you scroll down on the button itself, there's an on-click event. If we open that up and we drag our script manager, which holds our script, and then on the functions, we go down to our button script and look for the, oh, I forgot to save. Let's go ahead and save that. Go back into this. It's going to compile, and now we'll be able to find that change text. So go back into our scripts and go over here to change name text. And what that's going to do is it's going to change the value of this text image right here. This is name. And it's going to replace it with our string, hi, I am Bob. Let's give that a test. So we hit play. It automatically activated our canvas like we wanted it to. Now if I hit name, as you can see, it says, hi, I am Bob. Now if you wanted to add something to it, or let's say call it or Jane. Now when I click on the name text again, you'll see it actually changed to what our new one is. Now once you go out of play mode, it's going to revert back to our original, so that's exactly what we want. Now the next one we're going to do is the create or instantiate button. So we're going to go here, we're going to add another click, drag our script manager here, find the button script, and we want to go find instantiate prefab. Next one, as you can see, we're going to be doing the exact same thing. We're going to go open that up, drag the script manager. And all this is basically just repeating the same thing now. We're going to add the move prefab. This one will be the rotate prefab. Let's open that up. Script manager. Button script. Rotate prefab. The color. Script manager. Button script. Change color. And last one, destroy. And we destroy it. And now you can see why we also name these things very similar to what we're trying to do. So it's easy to find it when you're going through here and trying to locate what it is. Now let's go ahead and play and test all this out. Now, if we did this correctly, our UI does show up. We hit our name. It says, hi, I am Bob. We create. It should bring in our little red ghost that I had put in there. If you use a yellow or black, it'll bring that one in. And sure enough, it did. If I hit move, it should move to the right by 10. Oh, that's a little too much. And that's because we're a little bit outside the screen. It's actually inside our screen. It just moved it a little too much. So let's go ahead and change our value to this. And I'm just going to make this, we'll say -3. Let's see what that does. Because it looked like it moved it to the left. So I'm going to go the opposite direction. So we're going to create and move. Sure enough, it moved exactly the way we wanted it to. Now, for rotate, it should turn 90 degrees, which means it should be facing the left or the right. So let's hit rotate. Oh, we did that wrong. I think we were supposed to do that on the y-axis. So let's go back to our script. And let's go to our rotate. And let's switch this here. We're going to cut that out. Oops. Okay. And then in here, for the y-axis, I'm going to paste it right back in. And make sure we added semicolons at the very back side so it completes it. So now it's going to change it on the y-axis, not the z. Let's go back into our script. And let's hit play. We're going to create it because it's not going to work until we create. Let's hit rotate. And sure enough, it changed exactly the way we wanted it. So every time we click it, it's changing 90 degrees and facing the opposite way. Excellent. Now, for changing the color, it's not going to work on this particular prefab. And that is because this prefab has the material parented to another object. So let me show you how we can fix this. All right, now we said it changed the material on a child object. Let me show you what that meant. When you see the clone here, which is essentially our prefab, and you open it up, and let's scroll down to the mesh, and to our little ghost, you'll notice that the color materials are technically on that one. So what we want to do is look for the renderer in the child of this object of the clone. So when we go back into our scripts folder, I've already added that in there for us. We can come down here to the, let's see, change color function, and we're going to add get component in children right here. And what that's going to do is it's going to search for a component under the child or under the parent object and find the renderer in any of the children. So the first renderer it finds, it's going to change the color. So let's see how that's going to work now. So we come back in here, and now when we hit change color, you can see it's randomizing the color of the umbrella, because the umbrella is the very first rendering material it found. Now you can always set up a variable for a renderer and attach the particular material that you want to be changed and then reference that one in the script. But for now, this works exactly what we want to do. Now let's go ahead and destroy this one and make sure that works, and it does. All right, so let's show you another neat little trick that's going to allow you to further expand on the function and give you a little more flexibility, especially when you're working from one script to another or between functions. So we're going to go ahead and go back to our title text, not the title text, I'm sorry, the name text. We're going to completely remove that out of there. I don't want to see it. Oh, I need to go out of play mode to do that. There we go. So we removed the name text out of there. So it's still there. It's just got an empty string involved. Let's go back into our script, and we're going to add a few things to this. Now on the bottom of our script, we're going to create a new function called text to display, but we're going to pass in a string variable called text. And we're going to have our name text.text is going to equal that string variable. Again, we're getting that name text.text from our UGI name text, and then we're further going into the component of the text. So basically, we're coming into our UGI right here and getting this text component, and we're going to make this equal this text string. So what's going to be great about this is it's going to give us a lot more flexibility. Instead of having to change the name here, we're going to change the name in each of our sections. So for the first one here, I'm going to go ahead and open this up. We're going to create a part right here that's going to say text to display equals hello, I am Bob. And we made sure we put those in quotation marks because that represents a string. Now our text to display is a string value. So that's what it's going to equal, a string. And then when we're going to pass in this function, which is text to display, and we're passing it in the string value here. So now what's going to happen is, right here where it says, hello, I am Bob, when this fires off text to display, it's going to say, we're going to equal I am Bob, because we are sending that into this variable. I know that's kind of a little bit hard to explain, but you'll see exactly what I'm talking about as we go through this. So basically, this here is calling that bottom function. Now we're going to do the same thing again on the move prefab, where I am going to paste in here a text to display, but we're going to change that name to See Bob Run. So the only thing that's changed in all of this is I changed what's inside the quotation marks. And again, it's going to pass that text to display into the text variable of that function. Again, with the rotate, we're going to paste in another sec called Flippin' Bob. Color change, Camo Bob. And for destroy, I want to go ahead and add in Bye Bob. Oh, I added too much in there. So now whenever we press these things, they're going to, so for example, let me give you a quick overview of this. I'll close these little sections here so we can see a little bit clearer. When we hit instantiate prefab, or create, the create button right here, when we hit that, it's going to fire off the function instantiate prefab. Now once it instantiates the prefab, it's going to change this string to hello, I am Bob, and pass that string into our function text to display, which you'll see when I highlight it, it highlights the function I'm referencing. Now you'll notice here, it's getting a reference from every one of these functions. So that's the move, the change color, the rotate, and you can see it right here in the little description here where it's getting that reference from. Hope that helps you understand that a little bit better. Let's go and see what that's going to look like now. Once we've got that placed in there, I'm going to save this. I'm going to go here. And once it compiles, we're going to come back into our project. We're going to hit play. Now, you'll notice I don't need to change the title of the name text button anymore. That is irrelevant. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and go to create. And it automatically says, hello, I am Bob. We're going to go to move, See Bob Run, rotate, Flippin' Bob, changing the color, it's Camo Bob. and destroy, we're saying bye to Bob. And that's exactly what that is doing, is it's allowing us to call a function from within another function. And that's going to do it for this episode. In our next episode, we're going to try to do a little bit with the input system, how to set it up and create our first controller. And from all of us at Crazy Carrot Studios, we would like to say thank you. And don't forget to please like and subscribe. We will see you next time when we get back to Learning with Bob.
Let's